Today we are hosting the CMHA Wood Buffalo and the RCMP Wood Buffalo Detachment's First Responders Golf Tournament. This is the third annual event that we've had to raise awareness of mental health, both with first responders as well as celebrate first responders and healthcare professionals in our region.
So Legion 165 here in Fort McMurray, several of its members are currently working as first responders in Fort McMurray. That is why this tournament is so important to us. It's a sense of home. We have deep-rooted values here in this community. We share a lot of things with the community. We sponsor a lot of things in the community. A lot of military members retire from the military or release and then become first responders. And several of them that I've served with are actually here in town working as first responders. So we all know first responders and military members see different things and learn different things and have to experience different things throughout their careers. It's very important for us to support mental awareness and health within the community. It strengthens us as a community and brings us together as a whole.
This tournament started 4 years ago, and it started as just an RCMP tournament down at Miskina in Mac Island. And two constables, Constable Gauthier and Constable Metivier from Wood Buffalo Detachment started the tournament. And it's evolved since then. And it started off with 40 people signing up, and now it's moved to up here to Fort McMurray Golf Club, and 156 people are signed up today, with all proceeds going locally here to Canadian Mental Health Association. So it's a great thing. It's evolved and it's strong.
The response to this tournament has been overwhelming. It was surprising this year with the type of year we've had. We weren't sure how to approach local businesses and companies due to the economic downturn that we've seen. But our sponsors, the companies, the businesses in this community are just overwhelmingly generous towards our nonprofit. We've got waiting lists for people that wanted to play, and it's the second year in a row that we sold out really early.
We always generally sell out in our tournament, so generally we go about 144 for player registration. This year, of course, we got 156, so we're a little over capacity. We've got to squeeze people in here, but again, it's such a great event, and we'll do anything that we can to get people out on the course and golfing. And it is just continuously growing for us. I think at some point we'll end up having this as a 2-day tournament. You know, the registration and the numbers are growing. There's always a wait list. People want to get into this tournament, so we just see it continuously growing year after year with more support, more sponsors, and just more folks in the community coming out to see what's going on here. Especially after the fire, we really saw that the mental health impact on our community was extremely significant. So I think that bringing the awareness and having that the support out there with our first responders and caregivers, it goes without saying how important it is just to know that, the challenges that these folks are facing every day are not our everyday challenges, right? So they need the support, and we need to bring awareness that it impacts everybody, whether we're in a professional sense or not.
First responders are just that. They're the first people on the ground when something is not the way it should be. When there's an emergency of some type, or if somebody needs support, medical situations, things like that, our first responders are first on the ground. And a lot of people tend to forget that sometimes when we go about our busy lives and we do what we do. Those people are still there in the wings waiting for support, the community, the town, its people. They were key in the fires, they were key in the floods. I've lived here since 2010, and I can't say thank you enough for the first responders in our community because they've done so much to help keep our public safe.
Let's face it, back years ago when I first joined the force 28 years ago, the stigma was there. I don't know if a lot of people got help if they needed it, but now we're trying to make it that communication is open with regards to your own peers and with specifically, if needed, with expert medical assistance with psychologists and that kind of thing, to make people healthy and make them happy at work and strong-minded at work.
Transparency and awareness is the key. Many folks throughout the years and throughout the history went through, seen different things, and experienced different things, and we're not aware of how to actually handle those situations. And today we have a lot broader experience. We have better tools at our disposal to support and help people. And that's one of the things that we want to do, is bring awareness and transparency that there is support out there and there is help for you. You're not alone. We're there to help you and support you, and it's a key phrase that we want to get out to our public and to our sponsors and to the people that support our community.
On May 28, 2010, my whole entire world crashed. My sister, who's 3 years younger than me, committed suicide. I got a call at 7 a.m. I was at work and I had to go to my parents' golf course. I had no idea why. I actually thought my youngest son was in trouble because police cars were there. And I left work, went to my parents' golf course, and I walked in the door and my mother greeted me and said, "Your sister is dead." Just like that. And I looked at my mother and said, like, that's not possible. Little backstory on my sister, I used to call her every morning at 7 a.m. She's deaf in one ear and she would always hear her cell phone ring. So every morning I called her and she didn't answer on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So when I got the call to go to my parents' place, I thought one of two things: my son's in trouble or my mom's in trouble. When my mom said my sister is dead, I was just looking at her like, that's not possible. And she said, yes, it is. And my dad, I could see the look on my dad's face. And at that moment, I knew that my entire world had changed. My sister and I are birth sisters, adopted together. She was diagnosed with bipolar and manic depression at the age of 21. But she lived a very productive, had her own house. She never got married, never had kids, but she was a huge dog lover. She rescued a lot of animals. And she didn't live in our hometown. She lived 4.5 hours away. We had tried to bring her home and have her live with us because in February of that year, of 2010, she had her slide. Every 4 years, she would have a slide. She would be off work for 2 months. They would bring her back. She was good. She managed her illness very well. It bothers me most that she felt that this was the only solution for her. And I had to reconcile myself with the fact that after dealing with her illness for so many years, she just decided she had enough. On that morning, we got to the golf course at 7. I got there around 7. My oldest son was there. My husband was at home. We only live across the driving range. Called him over. And I literally crumbled. And I actually did not know how to deal with it. I couldn't believe it. But when I looked at my parents, they aged 20 years in an hour. Once we got through the whole initial shock of what had happened, my parents decided, that we would not say that my sister committed suicide. We would say that she died of a heart failure. She actually had some heart disease, but that is not how she passed away. When it came time, we went down, my sister was cremated. I actually sat in front of the oven while she was cremated because I felt that she died alone and I did not want her to be buried alone. So we cremated her. There was no celebration of life and there was no funeral. And that's because my parents could not reconcile the fact that she had committed suicide. We're a somewhat prominent family in our community in Northern Ontario, and my parents decided that we're not going to do this. We're not having a celebration of life. We're not having anything. Andrea's passed. That's it. A couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, my mom finally said to Maddie and I, my son, you know what, you guys need to talk about this. And for me, that was hugely important. We felt that we couldn't talk about it openly. Last year at this golf tournament, we decided that we would get up and I would speak about what we went through. People who know me, I'm a positive person. I am happy Monday. Today's happy Saturday. I am that person. But you don't know my backstory. And my backstory is that on that particular day in 2010, my whole world changed. I had to learn to deal with the fact that my sister was no longer with me. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through. It was 2 days prior to my sister passing, I had to put my dog down. I was a complete mess. I had to take the next day off. Friday morning, I got a call. I went to the golf course and I'm like, okay, I just took like a day and a half off work because I had to put my dog down. My sister's gone. I will no longer be able to call her every single morning. I had been doing that for 21 years. It was just the most devastating thing for me. My kids were looking at me and my husband and they're like, I don't know what to do anymore. And I didn't know how to help my parents through it. I could only tell my parents that she just got very tired of her illness and decided she was done. That's the only way that I could actually accept what had happened. Even though I wanted to bring her to live with us, to be around family, she did not want to be a burden on her family. For years, we've talked about mental illness, and we've decided that in the last 6 years, it's time for us to do something about it. When I decided to become a board member, I applied to be a board member for CMHA. I decided that this message had to get out. There are so many people that are affected by mental illness, and we're that family. You would never know it when you meet us that we've been through this. It's been 10 years. My sister would have turned 50 this year. It's been 10 years, and still to this day, there isn't a day that goes by that every morning when I wake up, I don't think I have to call my sister. But she's not there anymore. When we decided to start fundraising for mental health, it was actually my youngest son that decided he was going to do March Mullet. He was living in Ontario, we were living here. He got us involved. Then he moved out here and we partnered with the Harley-Davidson dealership and we do March Mullet every year. It's one of those things where when you start to think about mental health, the first time I made the speech last year, people came up to me after my speech and said, I had no idea, I'm affected, this is what happened to me, and people started talking about it. And the biggest thing is if people start to talk about mental health and they start to talk about their struggles and you can get help. I had to go for counseling after my sister had passed away. It was tough for me to sit there and say, wait a minute, I don't have mental illness. I'm normal.
We've lost quite a few people, but the biggest one for us was my aunt. That was 10 years ago today. Kind of impacted the whole family quite a bit, and always kind of were shy about talking about it and what had really happened, and that's really not a good thing to do, because by talking about it we could potentially save any of our neighbors or anybody else from going through the same pain we had. And then also a few family friends up north that just couldn't deal with the pain anymore and felt like they had no one to talk to. So when I was asked, great charity to support, and affects you whether you know it or not. So yeah.
I was born with a chemical imbalance, which caused me to have a chronic depression and anxiety. Add to that a lot of trauma that I went through in my life, which caused me to have some chronic PTSD, which exacerbated my illnesses. And I struggled for many, many years going to therapy, psychiatrists, doctors, medication, you name it. And I got better a little bit, and then worse, and then better, and then worse. And I finally got to a point where I wasn't even able to work. I was on disability for 5 years, and I thought that I would never go back to work. I thought that I would never be a part of the world again, that my place now was just to be at home by myself and be sad.
The Caregiver Connections, how it came about was CMHA Wood Buffalo partnered with the Government of Alberta and the Ministry of Child Services to develop a peer-to-peer family support program. And we actually have 3 services that we offer to the community within that program. One of the services is peer-to-peer support. So if you're a caregiver and you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't know where to turn, you know, you're just really drowning, you can come into our building or phone us, and you'll be connected with a peer support who has lived experience in the caregiver role. So they'll be able to connect with you, and they've been where you are, so it's a great communication tool so you don't feel alone. And also we can hook you up with resources or guide you to where you need to be depending on what assistance you need. The second thing we do is we have support groups. So we have a group called Empowering Helpers, which is a 5-week course through the Recovery College. And it basically is, it's all on the caregiver. It talks about boundaries, healthy relationships, how to set limits, self-care, all things that can improve the mental health of the caregiver so you're better able to look after, you know, your loved one. And the third thing we do is community education. So we go in the community, we do presentations, we partner with other organizations basically to share resources and raise awareness for the caregivers in our communities and the rights that they do have.
I went to the Recovery College last year in the spring, and I started going to classes, and right away I started to feel better, and I noticed a difference with the Recovery College and their approach, and I really connected with it. And within a few months I knew that I wanted to go through peer school and become a peer supporter and work with the Recovery College because it made such a difference for me, and I wanted to help other people to find that too.
For me, being a part of the Recovery College in the caregiver perspective is that my awareness of self changed drastically. Learning more about self-awareness, self-care, self-love, self-compassion, and grace. As caregivers, we need support for ourselves as well. We give that to others when we care for them and help them along their healing journey, but we have to always remember that we need that ourselves as well. And you really get that within the Recovery College, and it's learning to really not to shy away from the pain of what life may be kind of throwing at you within different life events or experience, but learning to also embrace it. It's extremely important because it's kind of like we hear it time and time again where to fill your cup up before you start filling up the cups of others. So it's really important to make sure your cup is full. And in the Recovery College, you have others that help to fill up your cup for you when it's emptying. And CMHA and the Recovery College really give you those individuals that help support you in those moments when your cup is emptying, and that's very important. And here at CMHA, they help provide those individuals and that team that really helps.
My connection with the Recovery College is I started as a student about a year and a half ago, and I worked my way into the peer support role. I started with a few classes, just trying to find my place actually in life. I've had a few struggles and low points, and I needed to change. And then as I worked my way through some of the classes, there was an opportunity to step into a possible peer role. So I took that class, and it opened up a whole new path.
Recovery College is basically what it sounds like. It is a space, it's a college, it's a community where people who are dealing with challenges, mental health challenges, addiction challenges, or really anything in their life that's a disruption, right? Anytime that we have a disruption in our life, we can go through this period of recovery where we need to get back on track. We need to reground ourselves, balance ourselves out. So Recovery College is that space. It allows people to come in, be supported on their journey, deal with people who have lived experience, right? We have individuals that are there, that are sharing their experiences and what worked for them on their recovery journey with other folks out there. So it's really a place to come together. We establish hope, we create that sense of belonging, and there's a level of connection that happens in this space, in the Recovery College space, that we don't get in a lot of other clinical settings, just because of the nature and the setting, right? We're around people who have lived experience, which makes it different.
With psychiatrists and therapists and counselors and everything, you have that technical side, that clinical side. They have the education, which is wonderful. It's so important in recovery. But when I went to the recovery college, I found people with lived experience, people who were like me, people who I connected with, and I thought, you know, they've been where I have been, they've been where I am, and they've come through it. And that gave me the hope and the belief that I could come through it too. And the technical side, the education, the clinical, is so important. The medication, I need that. I'll be on it for the rest of my life, and that's okay. But that lived experience, that peer support is so important too.
It was extremely difficult, and not gonna lie. My first time going down for my first class, I actually sat in the car and cried for 15 minutes. But I had the encouragement from family, I had that support. And then when I walked in, like I said, you were welcomed with open arms. And the sense of belonging, like I said as well, is they welcome anyone. In my experience, it was a difficult process because you have to open up and allow that to happen. And sometimes it's a struggle. I've taken classes actually 3 or 4 times because each class and every time you take it, you're gaining something different and your outlook on it is a little bit different. So you're opening up more. And it's a beautiful process, it really is.
In just over a year, my life completely changed. I was home, doing nothing, not being productive, and I didn't think I would ever get better. I didn't think I would ever have a life more than that. And within just over a year, I was back working full time. I felt productive. I felt happy. I felt like I was accomplishing something. I felt like I had a purpose, and more importantly, that my trauma had a purpose. And because my trauma had a purpose, it wasn't just for nothing, I could live with that. And I want to be able to help other people to find their purpose and to find their reason for going on.
Mental health issues affects everybody differently, and I know that the stats talk about 1 in so many. The way I look at it, we all have mental health. We all are emotional beings. It doesn't matter where we are in life, what nationality we are, what sex we are. We all have mental health, and some people can be overwhelmed with different things. When we start talking about depression and anxiety, when we start talking about grief, people are able to get through that day to day, but then there are people that struggle that can't get back out. It's a shame, embarrassment is one of those emotions that I don't know how you address it, because people, when they are in that shame and embarrassment, turn inward, and we can lose people if they aren't reaching out a bit, or somebody doesn't give them the helping hand to where they need to go, or the people to talk to. Education awareness is the number one thing, to make sure that our social media and the media that we have start talking about we're not alone. And it's to show everyone, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be a sports star and you can suffer from this. You can be an actor, Robin Williams, hid behind humor and yet suffered mental health. And again, it's everybody experiences that. And when we start understanding everyone experiences mental health, that hopefully that will help others to start not thinking about it as something embarrassing and to hide, but there are other people out there that have experienced it and are willing to sit down and talk and share their experiences through that and help you build your health better.
I think the stigma is, I think the role of stigma is, or maybe what we've learned over time is if we stay quiet and hide what's going on, that things might just either resolve themselves, or we don't want to, be vulnerable in front of other people. So I love tournaments like this because it helps end the stigma. It helps us talk about it. People show up, they say, this is my story, this is my experience, and I can share it with all of you so that you feel less alone. So I think that part of ending the stigma is just making people know and feel and be aware that there's other people out there like them who have gone through either the same or similar struggles.
Of course, with stigma, it's a really tricky thing, right? Because we all have our own personal perception of everything, but when we have events like this and we start making these are table conversations, right? I mean, we're used to talking about, cancer and diabetes and those things. So why aren't we having the conversation around mental health and addictions, right? These things are happening in our community, and we need to bring awareness to them so that we can reduce stigma, so people can come and get the support that they need, so they're not intimidated to do that, right? Really reducing stigma, having awareness events like this is hugely important for that.
Transparency and awareness is the key. Many folks throughout the years and throughout the history went through, seen different things, experienced different things, and we're not aware of how to actually handle those situations. And today we have a lot broader experience. We have better tools that are capable at our disposal to support and help people. And that's one of the things that we want to do, is bring awareness and transparency, that there is support out there and there is help for you. You're not alone. We're there to help you and support you, and it's a key phrase that we want to get out to our public and to our sponsors and to the people that support our community.
Mental health is everybody's business, and it's time that we start making it everybody's business by having events like this, reducing the stigma, getting people out to just bring awareness that this is going on in our community. Let's be here to support it and help each other.
golf tournaments like today, well, first of all, I loved golf. Grew up on a golf course, so that's number one, like the beer cart. But today is a day that we will all talk about mental health issues. First responders will be here as well. And the more you talk about it, the table is set up, the information is there. Every grab bag has information on CMHA mental health. So even though you personally don't have a mental health issue or you don't need that help, in that grab bag, there is so much information for you to pass on to other people or to yourself, use it yourself. It is all about raising money for mental health. And honestly, the more money that we can raise, the more services mental health CMHA can provide.
We've had rapid growth with our organization in the last 2 to 3 years, where we only had a couple staff to where we have 14 staff, and numerous more volunteers, 20 volunteers, peer-to-peer counselors and facilitators. Our program has grown tremendously. Our biggest thing at this point in time is to stabilize the funding. For nonprofit organizations, our future is about getting stable funding to ensure that we can deliver our program year to year.
Within the CMHA, there are tons of services, and I can't specifically talk about each one. There are tons of free services that are available. There are counseling, there are groups that you can join, there are hundreds of resources. CMHA is one of those associations that prior to being involved in this 6 years ago, I honestly could say CMHA in Wood Buffalo, I wasn't 100% sure what they offered. Now that I'm sitting on the board and we're part of this golf tournament and I helped raise funds for this golf tournament and get prizes, they need funding. Mental health is so critical to everybody leading a successful day-to-day life. It is not something that you can take for granted. I'm fortunate, I'm a positive person, I have a great family support system. The board of directors that I sit on as part of CMHA, they are so passionate. We're so passionate about mental health. If you call CMHA, visit their website, look at their Facebook page, check them out on Instagram. There are so many resources available for anybody who is dealing with mental health issues or anybody who's a survivor, like myself, of mental health.
I just think that it's something that we need to continue to talk about with our people. They're our strongest asset, and take care of the people around us, including the public. If we see something that's gone, make that referral, and make sure that the members know what's out there for them, whether it's peer-to-peer with their local, their local peers in the detachment who all deal with, situations that they can talk about, or, get some professional help, because we want to make sure that people are healthy, and it's very, very important.
I think it's really important to hold events like these to raise awareness and bring people together, have a conversation about it, and really help people discover what truly is such a big issue in our communities.
Today, for me, this is all about thinking about my sister all day today, thinking about how me being here and me being a member of the board actually will impact mental health services in Wood Buffalo. This is about me sharing my story. The more people I talk to today, the more people might get help, the more people might know what is available. Today is about family, my sister, and promoting mental health awareness in Wood Buffalo.
Talking about it within the family and stuff like that, and coming to these events really helps to get the word out and really make you feel better about the whole situation, right? You're helping others to avoid going through what we went through, and that's a big thing for us.
Local Heroes is obviously one of our sponsors as well, but they're the helicopter rescue organization that we have here in our community, which we're so fortunate to have here because we are a remote community, and that's not very common that we get that. So Local Heroes will be coming. So we've sold approximately 200 balls, 50-50 balls. So the helicopter will take those up in the air, and they'll just kind of hover over the ground, and then once we're ready, they release all of the balls, and they all fall to the ground, which is really cool. And then the closest one to a marker will win the 50-50. But it's always really special for us to have local heroes here doing that. I mean, who doesn't want to see a helicopter? First of all, super cool, coming in super low, but also knowing that they are our local heroes who go into those locations that we can't get to and save people. So it's really important to have them as part of this event.
Lucky winner.
We're live, right? We're here with Paul.
We're not live, are we?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know, but he
Pretend we're live.
we did the ball drop and closest
Closest to the pin.
the winner of the closest to the pin. Chuck, do you want to come in and verify with me? Okay. Hang on, here comes Chuck. He's my guy. Number 189 is the winning ball. Can you see it? I want to really thank local hero Paul for coming out and doing the local hero ball drop for CMHA First Responders Golf Tournament. Chuck, do you want to say anything?
Well, no, partnering up with local agencies and other nonprofits like Hero is great. It's the collaboration that we need in our community, and to showcase both CMHA and Hero. The future with dealing with mental health in this region, today I'm more excited than I was a year ago. With what we've seen with governments putting away funding directly specific to mental health and addiction, it is what was needed. It needs to be realized that we need money dedicated specific for mental health and addiction rather than just put it into the whole health budget or put it into other budgets. When we have money that's focused directly with mental health and addiction, and that the government is following through with taking that money and put it into place, it's exciting. Also exciting is what we've seen with COVID and with media and the news talking about some of the mental health issues that we've been experiencing through COVID. It's raised the awareness of people with regards to mental health. I've also seen corporations and companies start talking about mental health with regards to having their employees all at home. That social interconnection isn't happening at businesses like it used to be. Companies are even starting to talk about what the mental health looks like with regards to making people stay at home through the work environment. I am more hopeful today than I was a year ago, just with regards to the announcements and the focus that's being put on all the way from the government levels, all the way to the community levels, where they're announcing mental health and addiction fundings and specifically putting money aside for those. They finally recognized that mental health and addiction is something that needs to be funded like any other health service that we have, and that there has to be dedicated funds to that.
I think these golf tournaments are so important to have just to raise awareness for mental health and mental illness. We all have mental health, right? We might not all have mental illness, but we definitely all have mental health. And the more awareness we bring, the more we're breaking down that stigma. The more that it's out there, the more people share their stories, the more others are able to share their stories, and it starts to break down that stigma.